who do you think you are to come to the UK and say that you want to be a creative person? You better go and get a job. I've heard that. And for me to stand and still hold on to that camera till today, just know that I am no longer a baby. I am a woman and nothing can knock me down.
Welcome to the show, Dola. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me, Sophia.
Can you start by introducing yourself and telling us a bit about yourself and what you do?
My name is Dola, Dola, and I am a photographer, a storyteller. I document the stories of people and everyday life. I am from Nigeria. I was born and raised in Nigeria, and I relocated to England in 2018. So I'm based here in England now.
What led you to pursue photography in the first place?
Back in Nigeria, I remember taking a walk down the road one day and a woman saw me and she said, "Oh, you look like a model. You should come on this set and walk with us." And, I was young. I was doing my A-levels and I was like, you have to speak to my parents. And so she spoke to my mom and they came to an agreement and I went on set. And that was when I was introduced to like a photo shoot production because I'd never been involved in anything like that. So seeing the photographers, how they were, meticulous about everything they wanted, the arrangements, the setup, everything just looked beautiful. Like they were having fun and they were very imaginative and just, they had a great flow. I was doing my job as a model and following instructions, but I was so invested and interested in what the photographers were doing. So when I left the set, I went home, did my research online, and then I saw fashion photography. Obviously, I'd read magazines or newspapers at the time, but I just never really paid attention to photography. And that was how my interest grew. And I started to learn. And I told my mom I would like to study photography in university. She's like, "What happened to medicine?" And I said, my interest is changing. And she said, "Okay, you can be an apprentice to a photographer that is a professional or has established their career, but you have to go to school and maybe study something else." And that was when I chose a different course, but I began practicing and learning photography.
I love that story. And I know that you also studied marine biology.
Yeah.
Could you talk a bit more about that and how that shift happened from marine biology to photography?
I went to school, or I decided to pick a new course outside of medicine, right? So what I did was I went into the brochure, University of Lagos brochure, and I looked through the courses that were available, and I saw marine biology. And so I Googled again and I checked the course outline, the kind of courses I'll be doing. And I saw marine and its environment, oceanography, ecology, toxicology, and things like that. And that was interesting to me. And I was like, "Oh, this is something I will be good at." So I chose that. I chose it not because I wanted to be a marine biologist. I chose it because I didn't have the option to go to the school outside of Nigeria I wanted to go to study photography. So I had to choose something, right? So I chose that. And while I was in my first year studying marine biology, I continued to practice as a photographer. So on my lunch break or in the evenings, I would meet up with the photographer that was teaching me basics of photography at the time. And my mom actually paid for his services to teach me. So I was doing both simultaneously at the university. And by the time I got to my third year, all my lecturers knew that I was a photographer. They knew my interest. I had started working as a professional photographer with a news / media company in Nigeria. So one way or the other, I found how to make both work. Studying marine biology and studying photography and practicing both.
And do you feel that your studies in marine biology have influenced your artistic style as a photographer?
That's a very good question. I wouldn't say it has influenced my artistic style, but somewhere in my heart, the environment that I was, for example, carrying out my experiments as a marine biologist, the Oroshoki and Bariga section of the Lagos Lagoon, there are people who live around that water. there's a community around that water, the Ilaje community, Makoko is a bit further. So let me say the Ilaje community around that water. And, being on the boat, carrying out my water samples, I would see their day-to-day lives. So the photographer side of me was really, or still is, interested in that story, interested in the people, in the life that happens outside or around the water and how it influences the water. And even in my final project, that was what I did. How does that life influence the planktons in the Lagos Lagoon? So I would not say it has influenced my work artistically, but it has influenced the way I look at people around me and the way I tell the stories of people. And my dream is to one day merge marine biology or marine and photography in a way, but I'm just still very scared of the depths of the water.
Well, that's such a cool blend, marine biology and photography.
Yeah, it is.
And you mentioned that you relocated to the UK in 2018, and it must have been such a big move for you personally and creatively. Why did you decide to move to the UK in the first place?
I moved to the UK for love, and my husband was raised here in England. So the plan was, he would relocate to Nigeria, but then the Nigerian economy at the time was not getting better. And so it just seemed like the UK was a better life for us.
So what was the transition like and how did it shape you?
The transition to moving to England, at first I would say that there was a big struggle and a big shift. Shift in the sense that I'm from a country, Nigeria, where we are a big community. We're surrounded by our families. We are fun, expressive people. And so, and the country is sunny, right? The weather is amazing. There's conversations every day. You have your friends that you've grown up with, your family, your cousins. Everyone is around you. So for you to leave that, I left at the age of 27 to then come to the UK to leave and start my life, my career again. There was a big shift. At the time, I didn't know what the effects of that was going to do to me. I started to feel very alone. I started to feel anxiety, also starting my creative business from scratch, my photography business. I didn't have any clients anymore. I didn't know anyone really. So it was like, how do I start in this country? So all of that was just a very fearful, crazy time, really. But as time went on, I just kept on trying and I'm here today now.
It must have been such a big change for you, especially in terms of the climate.
It's cold in England. And I arrived during winter, so it was freezing. And I remember telling my husband that my bones were shaking. Because coming here for the holiday during summertime is a different vibe completely. Or even coming for winter for like 2 weeks and going back to Nigeria, it's different compared to living here for long periods of time. Yeah, my body didn't like that very much. And even my skin. Now
Yeah.
that it's winter, if you can see my face, I'm breaking out already because my body, my hormones, everything just shifts once winter is here.
For sure. And it must have been so difficult to start everything from scratch. So in hindsight, what would you say helped you the most to get through that period of uncertainty?
Ah, it was God. It's as simple as that. God. I believe in God. I'm a Christian and I was born into a religious household. My father was a bishop before he passed. So I was raised in the church. And even if after my father passed, I had a moment of confusion as to why would I serve a God who would take my father away from me. I was very angry about that for years, but I think I found my way back to Christ. And I would say that really got me through that time of my life. And just the fact that I'm Nigerian is like, what, you're not born to fail. Nigerians were fighters. We are intelligent people and we never give up. And so I think that in my genes as well just kept me going. Like, okay, even if you feel tired now, tomorrow you have to get up and try again. And I think it's just that resilient spirit and that strong mindset that I have or that I was raised to have. And yeah, praying, meditating, and fighting got me through. Yeah.
So, how do you think your life could be different if you didn't make that decision to move to the UK?
Before I left Nigeria to the UK, my career was growing. I was a photographer at like, I don't want to name drop, but like big companies in Nigeria. Looking back at 2018 and the people that were around me and the kind of work I was doing, I would say that I would have grown as a photographer and have a successful photography business. But would I be a storyteller today? I don't think so. I think what the UK offered me, it's like taking a fish out of water and throwing the fish in the sand. And the fish is trying to up and try to find its way back into the water and to survive. I think that's the experience, the life experience that the UK has given me. So if I did not have certain experiences that I'm sure that we would get to at some point in the podcast, if I didn't have those experiences, I don't think I would be here today. So I wouldn't look at my past in 2018. I would just say that I'm grateful for the time and the opportunity to live in a country that the system kind of works.
Yeah, I love that. And you mentioned resilience. How do you feel that resilience has shaped you as a photographer?
One gift that resilience has given me is to never give up on my ideas and to act upon my ideas. And to know that if I don't do the ideas that I have, that it would leave me and that those ideas chose me for a reason. And so even if I have had like the toughest time, that spirit is still with me. And even with like some major changes that happened in my life after I became a mother, being resilient made me push through. Sometimes I'm doing like work, editing work at midnight or applying to grant applications, seeking funding to support my work and things like that. At the weakest point in my life, and my heart is like completely shattered or I've given up. But that spirit is like, yeah, you're tired, you've given up, but you have to keep going. So I think that's how that resilient spirit has influenced my work as a photographer. It's like you have to do the work, you have to make it. This is not time for you to rest. This is time for you to grow. This is time for you to do the work. And so I love that gift of being resilient. Yeah.
100%. And I love that idea of ideas choosing you. What advice would you give to someone moving to a new place and starting over professionally, especially in a creative field?
You need to embrace your solitude. You need to embrace the time that you would be alone. You need to accept that you are alone. You need to embrace it. And as soon as you do that, life will start to flow for you. And you need to embrace your gifts as well and know that it's okay to start again. But if you don't give yourself the chance to try and you keep holding on to who you were back in your country, you would not give yourself room to grow. For example, when I moved to England, I was not doing self-portraiture. My camera was always pointed at people. But then moving to England, the camera turned its way around to me. And so as a creative, you have to give room to explore and not be like, oh, in Nigeria, I was a big portrait photographer, wedding photographer, or I was painting for this agency and that agency. That doesn't matter anymore. What matters now is you're in this country. How would you grow? What's the next thing for you? So if you don't find your identity, your new identity outside of who you were in the past, you would get lost. Take that time in a new city or in a new country and explore different things. That would be my advice to any creative relocating to England. Embrace your solitude, explore, learn about the people you're now associated with or living in their country. Learn about them and how the system works. And I just pray that the universe guides you, because I'm sure a creative will be listening to this. I hope that the universe guides you and that you follow the path that God has chosen or created for you.
That's such a good piece of advice.
Thank you.
And you mentioned turning the camera towards yourself. How did you make that decision and how did that make you feel?
So I moved to England, started my life, and I didn't have work for a while. And after some time, I got the opportunity to work as a freelance photographer for a media company as well in the UK. And then, the shift from me relocating from Nigeria to England, the changes in weather and other factors affected my hormones, and I was unable to have a child. So just before I started my treatment to the hormonal treatment to then have a child, or when I was about to start the treatment, the doctor found out that I was pregnant. And so at that time, before the pregnancy news, I had taught the camera to myself maybe once or twice just to practice with different lights because, during winter it's cloudy. So I wanted to see how I could make work in this new weather. If there was just a window frame or just one window, how would I do the work? So I turned the camera to myself for that, nothing serious. But then I got pregnant and my first trimester was so bad. I could not eat, I could not drink water, so I was not working. I was weak most of the time. To drink water, I had to use a teaspoon because if I use a cup of water, I would feel like I was drowning.
Oh, wow.
So it was very bad. And then in March, we moved out of where we were living into a different area, a better area, more quiet, more countryside. And then the world went into lockdown 2 days after we moved. So how would I find work? I'm a photographer with a camera. Who am I going to photograph? My daughter, my baby, kept growing inside me. And one day I said to myself, I was sitting in front of the mirror and I was just looking at myself in the mirror. And I had my camera with me and I took it up and I took the picture in the mirror. Just the camera on my face and then my entire belly and body change showing in the mirror. And so I said to myself, there's no harm in trying. And that was when I got the courage to start taking my photos, or the idea that, okay, there's something here. I would document my journey as a mother. It was just as simple as that. But then what did that do to me? Turning the camera to myself made me see myself and see who I was or who I was trying to be. It's like you are in a dark tunnel and you can see the light. So it's like I knew that I was reaching for something. Maybe I would say growth, but I didn't know how I was going to get there. But I could see it ahead of me. Turning the camera to myself made me embrace my vulnerability. It made me accept and look deeply into what has happened to me or what was happening to me leaving my birth country. And I'm grateful for that gift because people look at the lens and they just see circles in there. What I see is beyond that. It's looking at yourself in the mirror and seeing a different person, seeing who you could be or who you are. And how do you then work on yourself as an individual to then be that person you can see in the mirror? That was the gift, the camera. Turning the camera to myself gave to me.
Oh, that is so powerful. And I know that a series of photos that you took during that challenging time in your life has resonated with so many people. Would you like to talk more about the photo series that you created during the pandemic?
Yeah, so I created the photo series Omomi. Omomi means my child. Omomi is from my language, Yoruba, in Nigeria. Over time, during COVID-19, after my daughter was born, I began suffering from postpartum depression. Also because of the piled up effects from after relocation was like my life. I did not just catch a break. And I'm grateful for my daughter. It's a gift I prayed for and I'm grateful for it. Was just the environment I was in at the time and what was happening in the world. It was a very difficult time in the world. I think all of that affected me. And so after my daughter was born, for like 2, 3 months, I didn't pick up my camera because I was struggling so much with my mental health and I was suffering from postpartum depression. And so my health visitor at the time, she noticed that there was something with my eyes and it was crumbling and things were changing, but my daughter looked fine. The baby was growing, the baby looked clean, but I wasn't. Trigger warning, over time, I started to have the thoughts of ending my life. And my health visitor, I called my health visitor on the day that I was supposed um, to do that. And she came and she got me all the help that I needed. And she prompted me to start therapy. And so I was given a therapist to support me on my journey to recovery. So during those sessions, I I didn't trust the therapist, so I would not share my story with her. But when it came to talking about photography or art, I would open up and I'll start talking about photography, my ideas. And she said, "Oh, you need to find ways to document what's happening with you." Then I went back home. She was like, "You should write or something." But I came back home and I looked at my camera, I charged my batteries, and I took the first portrait with my daughter at 3 months, self-portrait breastfeeding. And that was when the magic happened. And over time, I just kept documenting our progress. It wasn't like I was shooting every day. No, it's just, oh, I have this idea from our day-to-day routines, the mundane in our day-to-day routines, the joys in our routines. I would try to photograph that. And so I kept on doing that over the years. And now we're at year 4.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate your honesty and talking about that difficult experience.
Thank you, Sophia.
I wonder, because I know that depression can sometimes feel really paralyzing as well. So, how did you find the strength to grab your camera during that difficult time?
The truth, how did I find the strength? I don't know. It's like that resilient spirit again. At the time, I didn't have self-identity anymore. I didn't even know who I was. And that's why if you look at the photographs, you see that my eyes, they just looked really like dead inside. But my creative spirit, that resilient spirit inside of me fought through. It's like, this is who you are. Your camera is part of your identity. Even if you're a mother now, you still have creativity inside you. And that's one thing with creativity, right? It's like lights and it would shine through no matter how much you try to cover it up or bottle it up or push it in a wardrobe. It would always come true for you. It would always come true. Is it true or through? Through for you. Sorry, my mother tongue sometimes affect how I talk. It would always come through for you. So it's like, I can't do this. I don't know who I am, but I have this tool and there's a story here. And that was where my creativity and my subconscious, the moments in my childhood, the art that I was looking at, my story as a woman, as someone who moved to a new country, all of that was somewhere in my mind. And they started to direct me, the physical body, on what to do. So another thing, I'm really grateful to that spirit, that resilient and creative spirit. I think they are one of like the strongest spirits that anyone can have. That no matter what life brings your way or how life shakes you, you would pull through with that creative spirit.
Such a beautiful way to put it. How are you feeling now talking about the experience and looking back at your photos that you took during that time?
As I sit here talking to you, it's like everything is just playing back in my head so fast, like a movie. I think one word I would say, how do I feel about it? I just feel grateful. I've seen great artists or photographers with amazing talents that something would happen in their life and that kind of shifts or takes them away from us, that we don't get to experience their creativity anymore. So I am forever grateful that, irrespective of everything that has happened or the life experiences, postpartum depression, the struggles, the anxiety, that I did not get lost. What it did for me, the experiences, is it gave me a medium to then help other people who are experiencing the same thing that I experienced, and to also make sure that they don't feel alone. And now in my DMs, for example, I would receive messages from like women, mothers especially, Black women as well, who would write like long messages. And sometimes I don't have the internal energy to process what they're trying to share with me. So I might not respond, but I would take my time at a later date to go back and respond to that person. Because I knew like where I was when I relocated. I really needed a connection. I really wanted somebody to see me. And so even that reflection for them, I am happy to give them my time and to tell them, even if it's just tell them that everything will be okay and that they should reach out for help to a professional, or just direct them, because I'm not a doctor, right? So I can't really carry that burden, that mental burden for someone. But to then be in this position through the experiences that I've had, and I'm still not lost, I'm still like standing here with a stronger identity, and to embrace all the shifts that have happened to me, the word I would say is I am grateful. I am grateful for the gifts. I'm grateful for the experiences. I am grateful for the changes, because now, no matter what, I'm so mentally strong now that nothing can knock me down. Nothing can knock me down.
That's so amazing to hear. And I think it is so valuable that you're talking about your experiences so openly, because there still, unfortunately, is so much stigma around mental health. Although it seems that anxiety has peaked globally in recent years.
Thank you, Sophia. Yeah, it's important to share the stories, because even for Black mothers growing up in Nigeria, I've like, what is postpartum depression? Like, what is that? You have anxiety. What is that? That's what Nigerians will tell you. I remember calling a friend in Nigeria at the time that I would like to, I didn't know what it was. I didn't know it was postpartum depression. I didn't even call it anxiety. I just said, I'm not sleeping. I'm shivering a lot. This is happening to me. My mind I don't have clarity of mind. And she goes, oh, I think you're under spiritual attack. You need to pray more. That's because that's what we're exposed to, right? As a Black woman, you're strong. You don't have time to be weak. You don't have time to express weakness or vulnerability. You are seen as strong. You are made to be a mother, and you have to carry on your role as that. So there's no room for you to say you are tired. What do you mean you are tired? So for me, to even have the courage to document my story as a photographer and to tell the stories of other mothers now, me in 2018 would not have done that. And that's why the gift that being a photographer gives me is even beyond creativity. It's like boldness, courage, advocacy, awareness, and empathy, and how to help other women like myself. So now having the discussion, the open discussion, even like the workshops that I do with other mothers, and like therapists being there and making sure that these women have help. These women do not feel alone. They're not struggling and drowning, because what that does is when a mother is unhappy, she can pass it on to her child. And we don't know. We don't want to raise anxious children. We don't want to raise children who will carry on the trauma from our generation to the next one. So it's like, sorry.
No worries.
It's like, how can we help these women? And how can we make sure I'm sorry, I'm crying. That this pain is just not carried on forever, because after a woman gives birth, she's abandoned and she's by herself. And before you know it, everything changes for her. Her life, there's a big shift. And she's going through this so much pain, but there's nobody there to tell her that this is what's happening to her. And so, if my work can be a bit of light for even just one person, I am happy about that. I'm not trying to carry the burden of the world, but the little that I can do is to make sure that no one suffers what I suffered, because it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing. And above all, that there's a transformation with a woman, and that beyond her strength, that there's purity, there is love, there is warmth, and there's just a general growth around her mind, and that she has clarity of mind. Because how can you walk on this surface of earth without clarity of mind? So whenever I speak about like other mothers or other women, it's just, I can just hear like the different stories. I met a woman recently who said, for the first time, I described what she experienced. This woman had a child 20 years ago. And she said, for the first time, I put into words what she has experienced. And it's like 20 years. How can you carry that for 20 years? So I think it's important that we share this story, and that even like platforms as Indecisive Moments, it's like the more we can spread the word, the more the work can get recognition, the more women will get to see the work. I remember when one of the photographs I took called Care was on billboards around the UK, and Black mothers would just reach out. Even all mothers would reach out and just say how they were at the bus stop. They saw my photograph on the billboard. They decided to Google who the photographer was. And they're so grateful that I get to document that moment and share, just to bring joy to the heart of a woman when she's picking up her kids from school, or she's running late for work or something. That was not my intention, but I'm grateful that the work has now gotten to that level that is beyond just photographs. Yeah, I'm sorry I cried. I'm such a
No, please
crybaby.
do not apologize at all.
I'm such a crybaby.
No, I mean, I was crying as well, to be
Oh.
honest. So you were not alone. And first off, I want to say again that I'm so sorry that you had to go through that experience and that you felt so alone. It feels like your work has touched so many people and brought so much light into people's lives. So I think it's incredible, the work that you've done.
Yeah, it has. And I'm grateful for that.
And I actually know that your work also won the Leica Women Photo Project Award. So congratulations. That it must have been a major milestone for you.
Yes. Oh, I love Leica so much for that gift. Winning the Leica Women Photo Project Award was a validation for me as a photographer and as a storyteller. It's like, oh, there is something here. Because I remember at some point I was thinking, should I stop the project and move on to other things or explore other things? But I had the idea to photograph other Black mothers outside of my story, to then, you know, bring light to the struggles of mothers who've suffered from postpartum depression, have mental health. And, you know, sometimes postpartum depression is called paranoia sometimes, and things like spiritual attacks. And some people don't even know how they can get like better, or their healing methods, or grow out of that darkness that they've been in. So what Leica did was to support that idea and to say, yes, there is something here. You can do so much more. And I'm grateful for their support because they're also like everyone I've spoken to from Leica, they're lovely people. They love the work that I'm doing or we're doing as women. And they gave us that room to grow. And that has validated me as a photographer. It has given me the chance to deepen the project, to dream even bigger than winning the Leica Women Photo Project Award. It was like, it's like, what is the next thing now? It's like, how much more can you do? And I love that because it means that I still have so much growth ahead of me.
Yeah, and I actually want to go back to something that you mentioned earlier. You said something like, I couldn't have done this in 2018. So I wonder what changed after 2018 and how did it help you gain the courage to be so vulnerable in your work?
Well, the answer is going to be very long.
Take your time.
I said earlier, I grew up in Nigeria, right? And I grew up in a household where I was sheltered, protected, guided, but I had freedom and I had a voice. For example, in some households in Nigeria, once your parents say something, that is what you will do. In my household, I had the opportunity to say, Mommy, this is what I would like to do. Daddy, my dad passed when I was 16, so it was mostly my mom after that age. So it's like, this is what I like to do. I want to be a photographer. I want to be this, that, that, that. And you will be guided as to, okay, this is the option you said you would want to, or this is what you said you want to do. But how about you do it this way and this way? And so I had that. But I never really experienced like anything tragic apart from the death of my father. I never really experienced anything that I would say broke my heart or pushed me into darkness or knocked me down. I never experienced that. I had good friends. I had a good community. I had a wonderful mother and siblings. I had love. I had that protection of my community. So I never really got knocked down. But then I came to England. So then, everything was good. There was nothing I was fighting for. So there was nothing, I didn't need my courage. I already had courageous people around me. But then when you're out of that community and you're by yourself, you realize maybe I am timid in a way. Maybe I'm not so brave. And that's why I said the camera, that's what it made me see, to see the depths of who I was, to see that I was a baby. I was my mother's baby. I'm growing. Of course, I was 27, but I was still a baby. And moving outside of that home, that love, into a different land. A land of many, by the way, of different kinds of people and characters. And then you realize you have so much to learn. And so what my experiences after 2018 has given me is to be courageous. Because when you get knocked down by the experiences of life, by the words from people who say that you're not good enough, that you shouldn't be a photographer because you would never make it. I've heard words like that. Like, who do you think you are to come to the UK and say that you want to be a creative person? You better go and get a job. I've heard that. And for me to stand and still hold on to that camera till today, just know that I am no longer a baby. I am a woman and nothing can knock me down. I am so courageous now. I am so brave. I'm not timid. My mouth has so much to say. My work has so much to give. And that's what life experiences give you. So not being courageous then was because I had people to be courageous for me. But now I'm by myself. And I have a child depending on me. How would I be a great example to her if I cannot stand strong and have a voice today? So in a way, I'm happy I experienced everything I experienced. I'm happy I was knocked down so many times by so many people, by so many experiences, because what that has now given me is that nothing can shake me. And I'm grateful for that. And I feel like I've said grateful a lot on this podcast, but I am truly grateful for that gift. Yeah.
That's so powerful. And I agree with you 100% that moving abroad by yourself, it just teaches you so much about yourself and your culture and your background. You just learn to understand yourself in a completely new way.
Yeah. Yeah. You see yourself in a different light. You see yourself like, is this me? I didn't even know that I was a cry baby as well. But I knew that I had empathy, right? I knew that I loved children because growing up in church, I was in charge of the children's class. I would want them to read, to learn the stories of the Bible, even like paint and do like creative things and sing and do choreography. I was passionate about storytelling even as a child or a young adult. So to then move to a different country, you'd be like the lens is so big, you can see everything happening. Another thing is I didn't know how to communicate with people that were not like me. If, for example, meeting someone for the first time, I would just go into my shell because I don't feel safe because I don't know you. But now I'm more open to speaking to people. And that's what relocating would do. You would you have to have courage or you would drown. You
Definitely.
will. And yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm curious, how do you feel that your background and all the visual language that you absorbed while growing up in Nigeria has influenced your work and your artistic style?
I loved growing up in Nigeria. We're fashionable people. We're very vibrant. We love colors. And I'm a Yoruba woman. So I grew up a lot with fabrics like ashoke, adire, damask. Fabrics that I would play with even as a child. My mom's clothes, at some point, she was making dresses for me from a veil. So I played with a lot of clothes. I did cultural dances with the drum, the talking drum, and the bata. So my culture is very vibrant and bold. And in a way, you would see those colors referenced in my work. It's the photograph on this wall right now. It's the photograph care where I had a jar of shea butter and I superimposed the lights into it. That was a representation of lanterns in Nigeria. I also grew up in a white garment church where we use like candles, we use lanterns. And so having some type of light is very important in my photograph. Even during COVID-19, when I was pregnant, there's a photograph of me reading a Bible and there's light shining from it. That's also a reference of reading the Bible under light and of course the light of God. So being also in the church, there are photographs of Madonna and Child, of Mary and Jesus. So somewhere in my subconscious, all of my culture, the vibrancy of being a Yoruba woman, my growth in church I was brought up in the church because my father was a bishop. All of that played itself in my subconscious that when I became a photographer, a portrait photographer, even how I photograph other people is softer, it's colorful, and there is something emotive about the photographs. And so when I turn the camera to myself, the way that, for example, this photograph that you can see, can you see how this is a bed sheet on the model? And, just draping it that way, I would feel like it's inspiration from the Renaissance era. And I just love that softness in all of my image and the culture, the images blended. And I'm here making the work with those influences. Yeah.
That's so interesting to hear how all that has influenced your work. And speaking of Madonna and Child, how do you feel that motherhood has shaped your identity as a person and as a photographer?
I think it has just shown me the possibilities of my mind. It has shown me to trust that I know what I'm doing. Even in most times, I'm like, oh, I still need to add this element to this photo. I still need to do that photo. It has taught me discipline and how to discipline my mind and to trust that whatever idea I have now, it came to me for a reason and I need to pick up my pen and write it down. Motherhood has given me that. Motherhood has also taught me time management and how to
For sure.
push through with the projects and get them done. For example, I'm a photographer. So I have a photography business where I document families, corporate events, also do branding works for for clients, right? So it's like I also have my personal projects. How do I merge both? So motherhood has taught me to prioritize. There are seasons for everything. So summer seasons are really busy with Studio Dola, while Dola Posh as the artist and the brand is like the winter months. That's when I'm most creative, which is funny to me. It's so funny. My best ideas come during the winter months because I think things slow down towards from end of November to December, things start to quiet down. So motherhood has really given me that power to embrace seasons and to know that now it's time to do the creative work that brings profit to your business.
Reflecting on your journey, what do you think have been the most important decisions that have brought you to where you are today?
I think one of the most important decisions would be taking a risk and turning the camera to myself, because that just became a web. Like in my mind right now, I'm seeing the webs going, tup, 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 tup. It just became a web of self-discipline, time management, learning, growing, asking for help, advocacy, mental health, postpartum depression, advocacy, writing, da, 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 da. There's so many skills that I have acquired since turning the camera to myself. And above all is loving myself and loving the changes that has happened to my body, to my mind, to my brain, and to be grateful for those experiences. So I think one of the major decisions, even if I wasn't sure, I was indecisive, is turning the camera to myself.
That's amazing. And I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on success. What does success mean to you and what makes life meaningful in your view?
I love that question. What does success mean to me? Success for me is growing. I have this thing, I write everywhere. I have this that says, this is not your rest. Keep going, keep pushing, make more. There is more. So that for me is success. If I finish a project now, I might take a break for a week, but that's not the end. There is more to do. There is more to say. There's more to write about. There's more to photograph. There are more people out there. I remember a conversation with one of my colleagues. She's an amazing filmmaker. And, she wrote the film that I was in last year, a mental health and creative movie called Unwai Buife. And I remember having a conversation with her and she said, do you think everybody in Korea knows your work? I was like, what? She's like, okay, Korea is too far. Do you think everybody in Nigeria, where you were born, do you think they know your name? I said, I don't think so. She said, so you're not done. So to me, success is what's next? What more can you do? How else can you grow? I'm not a competition to anyone, and no one is a competition to me because I set my standard. I am a woman that turned the camera to herself in her bedroom. And I am now a photographer that won the Leica Women Photo Project Award, that has exhibited her works in one of the biggest African art fairs, 154, that has sold her works of herself and her child, the works she made in her bedroom. So I set the standard for myself. I don't look to anyone and what they have or the achievements they have. I tell myself, what is next? What can I apply to? Who can I ask for help? How can I grow? That's the definition of success to me. I've forgotten the second part of that question.
What makes life meaningful in your view?
Like what makes life meaningful is waking up every morning and still be able to breathe. Like I might have a terrible day today or any day, but to be able to start again the next day, to watch the sun rise, that gives my life meaning. To make pancakes with my daughter, to go on a trip with my daughter, to explore art museums together, to have picnics with my family, to eat strawberries, to pick strawberries and eat them, to go to my neighbor's house and take the apple from our trees and wash them under the water and eat them, to cook Nigerian meals, to be able to be financially stable with my creative work. Because I don't subscribe to starving artists or to being a starving artist. Is not the kind of aesthetic that I love. I love to have abundance, to be financially stable as an artist, to be able, because what that does is I can provide for my family. I can explore life. I can see more of the world. I can do more work. So that's what makes life meaningful, to enjoy the goodness of life, to take walks in the woods, to drink water, the simple things, to have ice cream in the park with my daughter, to run on the fields with my daughter. That's what makes life meaningful. To just be happy. To cry as well. It means my heart is still beating and I can feel something that is overwhelming. And to be aware of that and all that mechanics leads to my eyes and the tears fall out. So to experience things, to experience people like you. I met you maybe 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago. I look at us now having such a beautiful conversation. It's like to experience people, to experience things, food, music, life, art, photography, stories, to listen to women talk about what they're passionate about, what they don't like. That's what makes life meaningful to me.
That was such a beautiful answer. You almost made me cry again.
Oh, please don't cry. I think we've had enough tears today. We've had enough tears today.
But seriously, that was such a good answer.
Thank you.
But before we wrap up, what's one key takeaway that you would hope our listeners to take away from this conversation?
The takeaway I want people to have is to be in control of their own life, of their thoughts, of their creativity, of the value that they bring. They shouldn't subscribe to being silent, to being afraid, to being timid, because that's not going to benefit you or your life in any way. So I want them to embrace life, to enjoy life, to take care of themselves, to ask for help. Like if people tell you no, do you know how many people live on this earth? Like ask for help. If someone tells you no, okay, cool, you go to the next person. Please, I need your help. And when people help you, go back and say, thank you so much for the help you offered me the other day. Don't just say thanks and move on. No, take your time to type how them helping you made you feel and how it changed your life. Because more goodness comes to people that are good. And I hope you wake up, you open the curtains, and you take control of your day and your life. That's what I want people to take away from this.
Wow, that is such a good note to end with. Where can we find your work online?
You can find my work on Dola Posh. So if you just go on Google, Dola Posh on Instagram, my website is dolaposh.com. You can find the webs of everything I've done somewhere there online.
Thank you so much, Dola, for sharing your story today.
Thank you so much, Sophia, for having me. I love our conversation. Thank you.